Today we're comparing the brand new DJI Mini 5 Pro with the Mini 4 Pro. It looks like the perfect upgrade, but there are some big surprises you need to know. So let's find out if you should get rid of your Mini 4 Pro and replace it with the 5.
Oh, thanks.
Hi guys, welcome back to our drone shuttle. Yeah, I got it back. So the DJI Mini 4 Pro has been the go-to drone for so many pilots, light, portable and packed with features. Now the Mini 5 Pro is here and at first glance it looks like the ultimate upgrade, but is it really worth moving from the 4 to the 5? That's the big question we're going to answer today. We'll test the differences in design, performance, camera quality, flight time, sensors and smart features, everything that could make you think about switching. And yes, there are already some hot debates going on. The true weight of the Mini 5 Pro and the missing FPV goggles support at launch. By the end of this video, you'll know if the Mini 5 Pro is just hype or if it's the drone that makes leaving the Mini 4 Pro behind a no-brainer. With the Mini 4 Pro, everything was clear. It was safely under 250 grams. DJI even built in a warning system if you inserted the heavier Mini 3 Pro batteries. The drone told you on the display that you had now crossed the 250 gram limit. That made it obvious where you stood legally, and it was one of the biggest selling points of the Mini series. Now, with the Mini 5 Pro, things are less straightforward. Officially, it comes with a C0 certification.
My review unit scaled slightly under 250 grams, but officially DJI lists it at 249.9 with a tolerance of ±4.
Here's the problem. That means some units already weighed more than 250 grams straight out of the box. You don't even need accessories. It can happen right from day one. Add something as simple as an ND filter or even just an SD card and you're definitely above 250 grams. And once you're above the line, you're no longer in the same legal category that made the Mini 4 Pro so attractive. In practice, that puts the Mini 5 Pro on the same level as much bigger drones like the Air 3S, which not only has LiDAR but also gives you a second telephoto camera. So if you're going to carry the same legal restrictions anyway, you really have to ask yourself, is the Mini 5 Pro still giving you the advantage you expect, or are you better off with a different model? DJI officially lists both drones at around 81 decibel, but they don't say how or where they measured it. So I ran my own tests. Here's the Mini 4 Pro first. Right at takeoff, it peaked at about 106 decibels, and while hovering 1 meter below the drone, the average was around 90. Now with the Mini 5 Pro, during takeoff, it was a bit quieter with a peak of about 100 decibels, and while hovering 1 meter below, it also averaged around 90. From 5 meters away, the difference basically disappears. The Mini 4 Pro measured about 59 decibel and the Mini 5 Pro came in at exact the same value. So what does it mean? At close range, the Mini 5 Pro has a slightly softer sound profile, especially at maximum power, but in normal flying conditions, once the drone is a few meters away, there's really no noticeable difference. When it comes to folding, there's really no difference at all. Both the Mini 4 Pro and the Mini 5 Pro use exact the same mechanism. The front arms rotate out and the rear arms fold down. You can unfold them in any order and both feel just as solid in the hand. So in terms of portability, nothing has changed. Both are perfect. Next, let's look at the gimbal protection, and here we actually see a real difference. On the Mini 4 Pro, the gimbal guard is just a clear plastic cap. It covers the front sensor, the gimbal and the camera. The system is pretty simple. You slide it under the gimbal and it locks into place. The downside is it's only a gimbal guard. For transport, DJI included a separate propeller holder, which is not so handy. The Mini 5 Pro combines those two functions. The gimbal guard and the propeller holder are now one single piece. Just like before, you clip it in under the gimbal at the top. Here's an elastic strap with a plastic bracket that hooks onto the back of the drone. That locks the propeller firmly in place for transport. And in daily use, this feels much simpler. On the SD card slot and the USB port, nothing has changed, and that's a pretty good thing. Both the Mini 4 Pro and 5 Pro have them placed perfectly. You can access them with or without the battery inserted, and whether the drone is folded or unfolded. It's simple, it works, and there was really no reason for DJI to change it. Flight control feels almost the same on both drones. Precise, stable, and for sure fun to fly, whether you're a beginner or advanced. The only measurable difference, the Mini 5 Pro is slightly faster, 80 meters per second versus 60 meters per second for the Mini 4 Pro. On paper, that's more power, but in practice, you rarely notice it. For smooth cinematic flying, they perform equally well. Speed alone isn't a real upgrade reason. Wind resistancy. On paper, the Mini 4 Pro handles up to 10.7 meters per second winds, while the Mini 5 Pro is rated slightly higher at 12 meters per second. That's a small improvement, and yes, in strong gusts, the 5 holds its line a bit better. But in normal flying conditions, they feel almost identical. You'll only notice the upgrade if you're flying in real rough weather, so it's a plus, but not a deal breaker. And there's also a brand new button on the side of the Mini 5 Pro. Right now, users report that it only triggers QuickTransfer mode, making it easier to send your footage directly to a phone without the controller. That's practically, but a bit underwhelming. No! Honestly, I really hope DJI will give this button more options in the future. For example, a mode switch similar to the flip drones, or maybe a customizable shortcut. That would turn it from a small convenience into a real usability upgrade. For now, it's basically just QuickTransfer, but we'll keep an eye on updates. Now let's move on to the camera, and this is where things get really interesting. The Mini 4 Pro uses a 1 by 1.3 inch CMOS sensor with 2.4 micrometer pixels. The Mini 5 Pro upgrades to a 1 inch CMOS sensor with 2.1 micrometer pixels. Even though the Mini 4's pixels are slightly larger, the Mini 5's overall sensor surface is about 2.5 times bigger. That means more total light, which directly improves dynamic range, low light performance, and overall image quality. But here's something pretty important. In normal daylight, you barely see a difference. Both drones capture sharp, vibrant footage, and if you mostly film in good light, the Mini 4 Pro already delivers excellent results. The bigger sensor really proves its worth in more demanding conditions. So let's break it down with 3 quick examples. First, we start with a hyperlapse sunset test. Both drones shot the same sunset. The Mini 4 Pro clips the sun and loses cloud textures, while the Mini 5 Pro holds the highlights and still pulls out the shadow detail from the ground. In high contrast light, the bigger sensor is clearly ahead. So in that example, the tractor is working at night. The Mini 4 Pro brightens the whole frame. You see more of the field and background, but noise creeps in. The Mini 5 Pro keeps the tractor very sharp and clean, but drops almost everything else into black. It's a trade-off between visibility and noise control. And here's a shot from a city at night. The Mini 4 Pro exposes brighter overall, showing more of the street's layout, but lamps blow out and shadows are noisy. The Mini 5 Pro keeps highlights controlled and the image cleaner, but leaves shadows darker. So and here's the bottom line. In daylight, both look equally great. In tricky light, the Mini 5 Pro sensor gives you more dynamic range and cleaner highlights, while the Mini 4 Pro favors brightness and visibility at the cost of noise. Let's also have a look at resolution and frame rates, because here the Mini 5 Pro has a clear advantage. The Mini 4 Pro can record in 4K at up to 100 frames per second and in Full HD up to 200 frames per second. That already gives you solid slow motion options, and for most filming situations, it's more than enough. The Mini 5 Pro takes it a step further. It can shoot 4K at up to 120 frames per second and Full HD at up to 240 frames per second. This means you get smoother slow motion and more flexibility for action shots or creative moments. So of course, higher frame rates also mean larger file sizes and the need for fast memory cards. But if you want to push your footage further, the Mini 5 Pro gives you more headroom. So in terms of resolution and frame rates, the Mini 5 Pro is a real upgrade, especially if slow motion is part of your workflow. Now let's take a look at the gimbal, and this is where DJI has added something genuinely new. Both the Mini 4 Pro and 5 Pro come with a full 3-axis gimbal and support for vertical shooting. In practice, they feel very similar when it comes to normal tilting and switching between horizontal and vertical. So no real changes here. But the Mini 5 Pro adds 2 key upgrades. First, the tilt range has been expanded slightly upwards, now going to 95 degrees instead of 80. That gives you a bit more room for creative shots, like pointing the camera up at tall buildings or trees. The second upgrade is much bigger. The Mini 5 Pro can roll up to 225 degrees. This opens the door to completely new creative possibilities, rolling transitions, dynamic Dutch angles, and even full rotation style shots that were simply impossible with the Mini 4 Pro. So while the basic gimbal functions are the same, the Mini 5 Pro gives you a much wider creative toolkit. If you're into experimenting with cinematic moves, this is one of the strongest reasons to consider an upgrade. Now let's check the flight time, because here I ran my own tests. I put both drones up at the exact same time, let them hover with no wind and the aux lights off, and just recorded until they completely shut down. Here's the time lapse of that test. The Mini 4 Pro lasted about 23 minutes before it dropped, while the Mini 5 Pro managed 31 minutes in the same conditions. Now, according to the DJI official specs, the Mini 4 Pro should reach around 30 minutes hovering or about 34 minutes max flight time under perfect lap conditions. The Mini 5 Pro is rated slightly higher at 30 to 32 minutes hovering and about 36-minute max flight time. So my test doesn't hit the absolute manufacturer numbers, but the difference is real. The Mini 5 Pro clearly outlasts the Mini 4 Pro. Of course, this was a best case hover test. In real world flying, with wind movements, climbs and descents, you won't reach these numbers. But the bottom line is, with the Mini 5 Pro you get noticeably more flight time in the air, and that's a meaningful upgrade. Now let's compare the charging hubs, because here the Mini 5 Pro makes life easier. The Mini 4 Pro's charging hub could handle up to 3 batteries, but it charged them one after another. It also worked as a power bank, but the output was pretty limited. The Mini 5 Pro's hub is a clear step up. It not only supports the same two-way design, but it can also balance and charge batteries in parallel, which cuts down the total charging time significantly. On top of that, it doubles as a much more powerful power bank. So if you're out in the fields, you can recharge your phone, your remote control, or even other accessories directly from your drone's batteries. Combined with the DJI 65-watt portable charger, you can fully recharge a single Mini 5 Pro battery in about 46 minutes and 3 batteries in roughly 150 minutes. That's a real improvement over the Mini 5 Pro hub, which needs close to 3 hours for 3 batteries. So if you fly often with multiple packs, the Mini 5 Pro's hub isn't just faster, it's genuinely more practical. Let's move on to obstacle sensing, and here there's a fundamental difference. Both the Mini 4 Pro and 5 Pro have full 360-degree obstacle detection, but the way they achieve it is not the same. The Mini 4 Pro relies entirely on visual cameras that works very well in daylight, but once the ambient light drops too low, the system simply shuts down. The Mini 5 Pro introduces something new for the Mini series: LiDAR technology. Unlike cameras, LiDAR actively scans the environment with laser pulses. This makes it much more reliable because it doesn't depend on light and it detects obstacles with far greater precision. That brings two key advantages. It works much better in low light situations, and it's more reliable at picking up very small obstacles like thin branches and levers that visual sensors often miss. So in terms of obstacle detection, the Mini 5 Pro isn't just an incremental upgrade, it's a big step forward in both safety and reliability. Next is FocusTrack. DJI suites for tracking people and vehicles. Both the Mini 4 Pro and 5 Pro handles this very well, but there are some key differences in how flexible the tracking actually is. On the 4 Pro, you can track people and vehicles. When tracking a person, you can adjust both an inner and outer circle, which gives you more control over how close or how far the drone should orbit around the subject. But for vehicles, you only get a single simple radius, no distinction between inner and outer circle. So the Mini 5 Pro expands this. It can now track people, bicycles and vehicles, and for all of them you get both an inner and outer radius. That means you have the same fine control no matter what subject you're following. In practice, this makes FocusTrack more versatile on the Mini 5 Pro. Whether you're tracking a person walking, someone on a bike, or even a moving car, you can define exactly how the drone should behave around the subject. So while both drones do tracking very well, the Mini 5 Pro gives you more options and more consistency across different subjects. One thing we also need to mention is FPV support with goggles. When the Mini 4 Pro launched, it didn't support FPV goggles at first either. DJI added it later with a firmware update. Right now, the Mini 5 Pro is in the same situation. At launch, there is no FPV mode available. No! It's possible DJI will enable it in the future, just like they did with the Mini 4 Pro, but there's no guarantee. So if flying with goggles is important to you, keep in mind that you'll have to wait and hope for an update or choose a different drone that supports FPV right now out of the box. Let's take a look at boot speed, because this is something every pilot notices in daily use. I ran 3 different tests to compare the Mini 4 and 5 Pro. First test, drone unfolded, no gimbal guard, just switching them on. Mini 4 Pro, as you see, about 8 seconds. Mini 5 Pro, about 7 seconds. So basically the same with only a slight advantage for the 5. And the second test, drones folded with gimbal guard attached. Mini 4 Pro, it took me about 20 seconds until ready. Mini 5 Pro, about 15 seconds, and that's thanks to the new auto boot when you unfold the arms. Third test, battery swap. This is the most relevant scenario for most pilots. So the Mini 4 Pro, about 13 seconds. Mini 5 Pro, only 8 seconds, again thanks to the auto boot when you inserted the battery. Alright, now let's look at internal storage. Something you'll thank DJI for if you ever forget your SD card or run into situations where swapping card is a pain. So the Mini 4 Pro has just 2 gig of internal storage. While that's enough for a few short clips, maybe a photo or 2, but very limited if you want to shoot video without a micro SD card. The Mini 5 Pro, on the other hand, comes with 42 gig built in. That is a game changer in many scenarios. You can avoid having to insert or swap cards immediately. You've got breathing room if your SD card is slow or missing. So the internal storage in the Mini 5 Pro is clearly a strong upgrade. For people who shoot often, travel light or hate fumbling with cards, that alone can make a real difference. And here comes the pricing. Let's start with the Mini 4 Pro. If you just want a single drone package, it comes in at about $649. If you prefer the Fly More combo with RC2 controller and extra batteries, you're looking at around $879. For what the Mini 4 Pro delivers, that's still one of the best value packages in DJI's entire lineup. Now let's move to the Mini 5 Pro. The single drone package starts at about $769. And if you want the Fly More combo with the RC2 controller, with ND filters and with extra packs, the price jumps to roughly $1,039. So compared to the Mini 4 Pro, you're paying about 80% more for the packages of the Mini 5 Pro. Well, that might not sound like a massive difference on paper, but in this price bracket, that amount can be the deciding factor for many pilots. So, is the Mini 5 Pro worth upgrading from the Mini 4 Pro? On paper, yes. The Mini 5 Pro is the stronger package. It gives you a larger sensor for more dynamic range, a gimbal with 225 degrees roll for creative moves, better flight times, faster charging and more reliable obstacle sensing thanks to LiDAR. All clear wins. But here's the reality check. Upgrading isn't just a $160 decision. If you sell your Mini 4 Pro today, you'll likely get a fraction of the original price, maybe $500, maybe less depending on condition and market. That means reinvesting in the Mini 5 Pro could easily cost you $500 to $600 on top, not just the official price gap. Well, if you're happy with your Mini 4 Pro, there is no urgent reason to sell it. It's still an amazing drone, and for many pilots, it does 90% of what the Mini 5 Pro can do. But if you're buying new, or if image quality, flight time, and low light reliability are absolute priorities for you, then the Mini 5 Pro is the smarter choice. So in short, keep your Mini 4 Pro if you already own one, but if you're entering fresh, or you want that extra reliability and cinematic flexibility, the Mini 5 Pro is worth the investment. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more drone content. Drop me a comment below what you think. And hey, that's enough YouTube for today. Close that app, grab your drone and go fly, because the best part isn't watching videos, it's being up there in the sky yourself. So take care, fly safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.